2 minutes lorsque les médias auront la chance de joindre à l'appel. Merci beaucoup. Okay, thank you very much for your patience. We will begin now. So good afternoon. One thing I will just ask if those who are on the call can please mute themselves. I believe we've muted most, but please make sure you are on mute so that we can go through with this media briefing as uninterrupted as possible. So good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. My name is Natalie Fay. I am a Parks Canada team member, and I will be moderating our media briefing today. Please note that this media update is being recorded and transcribed. Bon après-midi et merci à vous de nous joindre aujourd'hui. Je m'appelle Nathalie Fay, membre de l'équipe de Parcs Canada et j'animerai la conférence de presse aujourd'hui. Veuillez noter que ce point de presse est en cours d'enregistrement. So I'm just going to start by saying that we at Parks Canada and our partners are feeling very much the same way that many Canadians and people from around the world are feeling this morning, seeing the news out of Jasper National Park. Obviously, this is a very devastating situation. We are glad to be here today with you, members of the media, to provide an update and information that we have that is currently available, given that we are still very much dealing with an active wildfire situation. We likely will not have all of the answers that you are looking for, so please bear with us. We are doing all that we can to keeping you informed and will continue to do so in the coming hours and days. So to begin, I will introduce who our official speakers are today. I am here with Pierre Martel, Director of the National Fire Management Program for Parks Canada. The spelling of Pierre's name is first name Pierre, last name Martel. And I am also joined with Mayor Richard Ireland of the municipality of Jasper. Name spelling is first name Richard, last name Irelan. I will just repeat in French. Donc, nous sommes ici aujourd'hui avec nos porte-paroles officiels. Pierre Martel, directeur de gestion du feu national pour Parcs Canada. Son nom, on appelle, son premier nom, c'est Pierre, dernier nom, Martel. Et nous sommes aussi ici avec le maire de la municipalité de Jasper, Richard Ireland. Son premier nom, Richard, dernier nom, Ireland. So how we will go today is I will pass things over very shortly to Pierre Martel, who will provide an update for the situation in Jasper National Park, and we'll also repeat that in French. And then after that, I will hand things over to Mayor Ireland to provide an update from the municipality. After that, we will open the floor to questions for the media. We do have many members of the media online, so for today we do ask that you limit yourself to one question so that we can get through as many questions as possible. Donc, je vais commencer, je vais donner la parole à Pierre Martel pour donner une mise à jour en anglais et en français de la situation du feu au Parc national Jasper. Par la suite, Monsieur le maire de la municipalité de Jasper présentera aussi sa mise à jour pour la communauté. Et par la suite, j'ouvrirai la séance de questions et réponses et nous vous demandons de poser une seule question pour aujourd'hui pour assurer que nous pouvons répondre au plus de questions possibles. So with that, I will hand things over to Pierre Martel, Director for the National Fire Management Program at Parks Canada.
Hello, everyone. So it's been a difficult few days since this incident started on Monday night, but couldn't be more proud of the response that we've had to this incident. So since our last update, there's been significant developments related to wildfires in the town of Jasper and Jasper National Park. Just before 6 p.m. Mountain Time on July 24th, portion of the South Fire in Jasper National Park reached the outskirts of the Jasper town site, then moved into the town of Jasper after being driven by strong wind gusts from the south and southeast. Despite the ongoing determined and courageous collective efforts of all of the partners involved, including Parks Canada team member, the town of Jasper, and Alberta Wildfire, it is with heavy hearts that we report that this aggressive and fast-moving fire continues to burn in Jasper National Park. While we do not yet have specific details, we do know that multiple structures, including a number of businesses and homes in and around the town of Jasper, have been lost. Structural firefighters remain in the town and are working to save as many structures as possible and to protect critical infrastructure. Additional structural protection firefighters are en route to the town of Jasper as we speak. Parks Canada National Fire Management Program team members have been and continue to collaborate with the Mayor Richard Ireland and the town of Jasper through Unified Command and Jasper Fire Department and Chief Matthew Conti, as well as personnel from the Alberta Emergency Management Agency and Alberta Wildfire. Wildland firefighters have relocated their command posts and are continuing efforts to fight this aggressive fire. All available resources have been and continue to be used as we coordinate activities through the Canadian Interagency Forest Fire Centre. We know this is an extremely challenging time for the community of Jasper, Albertans, and Parks Canada and Parks Canada team members. We command emergency responders from Parks Canada, the town of Jasper, and the province of Alberta, who were able to evacuate more than 20,000 residents and visitors safely. We wish to express condolences to all affected community members, their families, their friends, business operators, and all those who love Jasper and Jasper National Park. Many first responders, including Parks Canada wildland firefighters, are members of the Jasper community. Your community is our community. We know many residents and business owners will be anxious to hear about the status of their home and businesses. For safety reasons and to ensure first responders can do their work, we ask that people respect the area closure. We'll be able to provide further updates and more information as soon as conditions allow. OK, maintenant en français. Donc, les derniers jours ont été assez difficiles depuis que l'incident a débuté tard lundi soir. Depuis notre dernière mise à jour, des développements importants sont survenus concernant les incendies de forêt dans la ville de Jasper et dans le parc national Jasper. Peu avant 18 h, heure des montagnes, le 24 juillet, les parties du feu sud au parc national Jasper ont atteint la périphérie de la ville de Jasper, puis se sont déplacés dans la ville de Jasper après avoir été poussés par de fortes rafales de vent du sud et du sud-est. Malgré les efforts collectifs déterminés et courageux continus de tous les partenaires concernés, y compris les membres de l'équipe Parcs Canada, la ville de Jasper et Alberta Wildfire, c'est avec le cœur lourd que nous annonçons que ce feu agressif et qui se déplace rapidement continue de brûler dans le parc national Jasper. Bien que nous n'ayons pas encore de détails précis, nous savons que plusieurs bâtiments, y compris un certain nombre d'entreprises et de maisons dans la ville de Jasper et ses environs, ont été perdus. Les pompiers demeurent dans la ville et s'efforcent de sauver autant de bâtiments que possible et de protéger les infrastructures essentielles. Des ressources supplémentaires pour la protection des bâtiments sont en route vers la ville de Jasper. Les membres de l'équipe du programme de gestion du feu de Parcs Canada collaborent avec le maire de la ville, M. Richard Ireland, et la ville de Jasper par le biais du commandement unifié et du service d'incendie de Jasper et avec leur chef Matthew Conti, ainsi qu'avec le personnel de l'Agence de gestion des urgences d'Alberta et les pompiers d'Alberta Wildfire. Les pompiers forestiers ont déménagé leur poste de commandement et poursuivent leurs efforts pour lutter contre cet incendie agressif. Toutes les ressources disponibles ont été et continuent d'être utilisées alors que nous coordonnons les activités par l'intermédiaire du Centre interservice des feux de forêt du Canada. Nous savons qu'il s'agit d'une période extrêmement difficile pour la communauté de Jasper, les résidents de l'Alberta et les membres de l'équipe Parcs Canada. Nous saluons le travail exceptionnel des intervenants d'urgence de Parc Canada, de la ville de Jasper, de la province de l'Alberta, qui ont pu évacuer plus de 20 000 résidents et visiteurs en toute sécurité. Nous souhaitons exprimer nos condoléances à tous les membres de la communauté touchée, à leurs familles, à leurs amis, aux propriétaires d'entreprises et à tous ceux qui aiment Jasper et le Parc national Jasper. De nombreux premiers intervenants, dont les pompiers forestiers de Parc Canada, sont membres de la communauté de Jasper. Votre communauté est notre communauté. Nous savons que de nombreux résidents et propriétaires d'entreprises seront impatients de connaître l'état de leur maison et de leur entreprise. Pour des raisons de sécurité et pour s'assurer que les premiers répondants peuvent effectuer leur travail, nous demandons aux gens de respecter la fermeture du secteur. D'autres mises à jour et plus de renseignements seront communiqués dès que les conditions le permettront. Merci.
Thank you, merci Pierre. I will now invite Mayor Ireland to make his remarks. J'inviterai maintenant le maire de la ville de Jasper d'entamer ses remarques. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Natalie, and welcome all. And today, as I have done, I will restrict my remarks to community impacts, not engage in any technicalities or in any speculation regarding the same. Like most of you, I think today I had hoped to receive some further verified details of what has happened on the ground, but I fully appreciate that as this wildfire continues to rage, there are other priorities for those on the ground. And so I accept that some of those details simply will have to wait until later. And with all of that, I speak to you today with profound sorrow as our community begins to come to terms with the devastating impacts of last night's wildfire that have simply ravaged our small, tight-knit mountain community. The destruction and the loss that so many of our residents are facing and feeling defies description and is almost beyond comprehension. Deepest sympathies go to all of our residents, and I know that so many of you and so many Canadians have expressed those same sentiments, and thank you for that. To all of the responders on the ground, in our town, in our home, words cannot express the admiration and the gratitude we have for their professionalism, dedication, and their unyielding efforts. And our priority continues to be the safety and well-being of everyone involved and affected by this ongoing tragedy. The incident command team continues to work with responders on the ground to continually and valiantly work to protect our town and our home, and we will continue to provide supports to evacuees in other communities. And for any residents who are able to tune in, I just want to assure you that as mayor and council, we are committed to continuing our support the entire community through this truly unprecedented challenge and beyond. And we will continue to work closely with all levels of governments, other organizations, and volunteers to coordinate relief efforts and provide essential resources and information to assist all who have impacted. I'm happy to say that the level of cooperation between all jurisdictions as a municipality created under provincial jurisdiction but existing in a federal jurisdiction are unusually impacted. But all of those jurisdictional boundaries tend to disappear when we get together like this, and just commend the unified efforts of everyone and thank those particularly engaged in our command. I am prepared to answer questions regarding community impact, recognizing that I am faced to acknowledge a lack of information, and it needs to be verified before I can speak to it. Thank you for your interest.
Thank you very much, Mayor Ireland. So we will open up the floor now to questions and answers. Just a quick recap for those who are joining us for the first time. Please use the hand raising function on Microsoft Teams if you have a question. I see many of you have already found it. For those media who are joining by telephone, please use *5 if you wish to raise your hand. Again, for today, we do ask that you keep it to one question so that we can get through as many as possible. And before you ask your question, please be sure to just state your full name and media outlet. I will call on you when it is your turn to ask a question so that you can unmute yourself and begin. Now I will just repeat this in French and we will get started. Donc, pour les médias qui se joignent à nous en ligne, veuillez utiliser la fonction lever la main si vous avez une question. Pour les médias qui se joignent par téléphone, veuillez utiliser *5 pour lever la main. Et pour aujourd'hui, nous vous demandons donc de vous tenir à une question. Et avant de poser votre question, veuillez déclarer votre nom et votre bureau de presse. Si jamais vous avez des questions que nous n'avons pas la réponse, nous allons faire notre mieux de faire un suivi par écrit par la suite. So for those, one thing I said in French that I didn't say in English is that if there will likely be many questions that we do not have the information for yet, we will do our best to follow up with those questions as the information becomes available, but I cannot commit to timelines at this point. We will try to get through to as many questions as possible before we go back to focusing on operations. So to begin, I will call on, I believe I have Connor O'Donovan. Can you please state your media outlet and ask your question?
Hey, yeah, that's right, Connor O'Donovan with the Weather Network here. So we've been hearing from a lot of people who are unfortunately discovering that their homes have been destroyed from seeing videos on social media, and I'm hearing some sentiment of frustration that this is the way people are finding out, and that they feel like there's been a bit of a lack of information from official sources like the municipality and Parks Canada. And so while I respect the fact that you want to take the time to be accurate when reporting the damage and losses, do you have any idea of when the folks who are kind of sitting at home or sitting in evacuation centers, not at home, and sitting wherever they are, waiting to see if their home has been destroyed, will have official information from someone within the city or the town about if that has happened or what the extent of damage might be?
I can start, Mayor, and pass it to you after if you would like. Thanks, Connor, for your question. So I would just start by saying that at this point, our efforts continue to try to fight the fire. So we have a significant number of firefighters that are still in town dealing with structural fires and trying to continue to prevent further losses of homes and buildings. And so as soon as it's feasible, we will do what we can to provide updates.
And from my perspective, we simply need to be able to have verifiable information. I understand the community interest in that. Of course, it is one of the most pressing issues for nearly all of our community right now. And yes, they are privy to posts on social media and other platforms. But until we can verify from people on the ground what is there, our sense is that it would be irresponsible to try and confirm things based on unverified facts. So we are as anxious as anybody to get the detailed verified information so we can share it with our residents. But until we have that, we simply have nothing to share. And so I appreciate people see that as a frustration, but we need the information before we can share it. And we fully appreciate that those on the ground have a challenging job at their hands right now, still fighting fire and protecting some of the homes that still are standing. And that is the priority, as is the safety of those responders. So if they are engaged in that work, that has to take precedence, and the rest of the information, as soon as we can get it, we will share it with our community.
Thank you very much. Next question is from Madeline Smith, I believe CBC Edmonton. Madeline, the floor is yours. Madeline, are you there? Okay, we will come back to that one.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Sorry, I apologize. I had to change my mic settings. And apologies as well if there's some background noise in here in my newsroom. So I understand, you know, you're not able to give an exact scope of the damage, but obviously it is a question that's on everyone's mind today more than anything else, really. Are you able to say anything about what has been damaged outside of the town site, specifically a lot of those campgrounds to the south of Jasper? Is there any sense of what that is looking like at this point? And then I will come back for follow-up if that's okay.
No, I can't speak to the extent of the damage. I mean, we expect that it's significant, obviously, but there was challenges yesterday through the day, even before the big run into the town, with flying and assessing anything along like where that wildfire was. So we're kind of in the same situation today, and we'll assess when it's possible. Our personnel is still focused on fighting the fire more than assessing the damage.
Okay, and then, you know, inside town, can you give an indication of even just the general parts of town that have been affected? Again, I understand it's really difficult at this point to be able to pinpoint anything, but you know, people are talking about east versus west, doing another worse or doing it better. Can you give any general indication of where the damage is sort of generally concentrated?
Madeline, unfortunately, and this is, I understand that everyone wants this information, but it is impossible for us to share that specific level of information at this time. We're very much focused on the ongoing response. And as soon as we have the chance to get that situational update from folks who are on the ground, we will follow up and share it. But we really need to ensure the accuracy of it, and we need to wait for that official update. So we completely understand that you all have questions around this and want to know the status of our community, people's homes, their workplace and businesses, but we need to really focus on operations. So I understand that we all want this information, but we simply don't have those answers today. Apologies. Next question, we have Jeanette French from CBC, I believe.
Hi there, Janet French from CBC. I'm hoping that this question is for Pierre. I'm hoping you can answer in both English and French. And again, I apologize for the background noise. Can you describe for us how this happened on such a short timeline, this fire? What was so unique about this scenario and the conditions that allowed a possible lightning strike 8 kilometers away from this town site to be burning structures within the town in less than 48 hours?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for the question, Janet. Yeah, so these lightning strikes happened late in the day on Monday, and they were accompanied by like very, very strong wind. And so we had already significant drought conditions that have been building up through the summer. So when those lightning strikes started the fire, by the time the fires were detected, we were dealing with already something that had a significant smoke columns and was already beyond capacity for doing quick initial attack. And so that's kind of like the initial stage in terms of yesterday, we're dealing with a fire that is, about as flame that's about 100 meters above the treetops, and is spotting and moving because of the spotting ahead of the fire. that move something like 5 kilometers in less than an hour or something along those lines. Cones on fire are flying, you know, up. I don't know the distance, you know, but like very significant, maybe a kilometer or more ahead of the fire. That's what was raining on the town site yesterday. So that's kind of what you're dealing. It's just a monster at that point. There is no tools we have in our toolbox to deal with that at that point. You get out of the way, you retreat, and you do what you can to protect communities and infrastructure as best as you can. Pour répéter en français rapidement, je me souviens de ce que j'ai dit. Quand le feu a commencé, lundi soir, ça a commencé très tard en journée avec les éclairs. On avait de la sécheresse qui était accumulée au fil de la saison. Puis quand les éclairs sont arrivés, c'est venu avec des très gros vents. Donc, les feux se sont rapidement propagés, devenus de très gros feux presque immédiatement. Quand les feux ont été détectés, déjà, on avait des colonnes de fumée là, qui étaient très impressionnantes. Puis les feux étaient déjà plus que ce qu'on pouvait faire avec l'attaque initiale. La stratégie à ce moment-là, avec le personnel en place, c'est de procéder à des évacuations stratégiques pour s'assurer qu'on enlève les gens, qu'on protège la vie. C'est la priorité numéro 1. Puis après, pour ce qui en est d'hier, c'est un feu où à ce moment-là, avec les vents qu'on avait hier, les conditions qu'on avait, t'as des flammes, un front de flamme là, qui est à peu près 100 mètres au-dessus de la cime des arbres, je cherche mes mots un petit peu en français, mais qui fait des spot fires à l'avant du feu jusqu'à peut-être plus qu'1 kilomètre, je ne sais pas exactement la distance, mais tu as des cônes, des conifères qui sont allumés, qui continuent à avancer en avant. Donc, le feu a fait quelque chose comme 5 kilomètres en moins d'1 heure, puis il faisait dans le fond, pleuvoir du feu sur la ville. Quand tu as des conditions comme ça, on n'a pas d'outils dans notre boîte pour faire quoi que ce soit avec ça. Tu prends une retraite, tu t'assures que tu protèges tes gens, que tu protèges la communauté, que tu protèges les infrastructures du mieux que tu peux. Puis c'est ce qui s'est passé hier. Là. Je ne pourrais pas être plus fier du travail que nos premiers répondants ont fait hier.
Thank you very much. Next question will be Alana Smith, Globe and Mail. Alana, go ahead. You can unmute yourself.
Hi, thanks for taking my question. I'm hoping this falls out of the scope of specifics, because I'm sorry if it does, because I know you're getting that question a lot. But I understand that obviously people are being turned around from going anywhere near the Jasper area just because, especially if they don't have respirators. We understand that's because there's obviously a huge risk with air quality. I wanted to know whether or not the reports of a gas station exploding are true or not, and if you can comment on whether that's affecting the air quality even more than the smoke that's coming from wildfires.
I'm not sure if we're able to confirm that at this time. I understand that there have been images on social media circulating, but until we, Parks Canada, and the municipality receive an official update, it's very challenging for us to confirm this at an official level. However, I will say that certainly with heavy smoke, there are considerations. People should be avoiding the area and not traveling in that direction. And we know there are smoke impacts beyond Jasper National Park at this point. So people who have respiratory issues or concerns should consult the Health Canada website about air quality index and what they can do to keep themselves safe. That's the best advice we can give, but we are working on getting more information so that we can have more of those specifics confirmed to the point where we're confident in saying what has been impacted.
I appreciate that. And sorry if I may, I just had a really quick second question. It's just a comment that Alberta Premier Danielle Smith said earlier that anywhere between 20 and 50%, she said, of structures or the area has been destroyed in Jasper. I'm just wondering if you can say whether or not that's realistic or not.
What we can, I'll jump in. At this time, those are not numbers that we have from the incident side, so we cannot confirm or speak to that at this time. We are working on any future update to be able to give a scope of what the impacted area looks like. We are simply not there yet as we continue to gather information. Thank you. We'll move on. Next question, Bob Covey from the Jasper Local. Bob, go ahead.
My question is the wildfire itself still posing the main threat to the town site, or is the main threat structure fires? And if you can't answer that, can you say whether the North Fire has also encroached on the town site? Thank you.
I might pass that over to Pierre to see if we have an update.
Thanks for your question, Bob. So my understanding last night from the information I have is that the North Fire was not the problem. Like it was all about that South Fire that with those very strong southerly winds that were there yesterday is the fire that caused the problem. So I'm not aware of the North Fire really having been part of the issue, but it's possible that I just don't have that information. In terms of whether it is the wildfire or the structural fire that is causing the problems at this time, rain started around 11 p.m. last night, so I don't have the latest, but I expect that fire behavior in terms of the wildfire is down right now because of that rain received last night. But I haven't had a recent update on wildfire conditions out there, so I expect that it's mainly the structural fires, but both still remain a problem. The wildfires, we will be dealing with this for a long time over the next while.
Thank you very much.
I believe you're muted, Natalie.
Of course, my apologies. Next on my list, I have Camille Poverel, I believe. Camille, can you unmute yourself and just confirm your name and media outlet?
Yes, my name is Camille Poverel and I work for Radio-Canada. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. You may ask your question.
Okay, thank you. So my question is for both Parks Canada and Mayor Ireland. If I could get an answer also in French for Pierre. How and when were tourists advised about fire approaching, and did they receive an alert message on their phones, please?
Go ahead, Pierre, if you would like to start, and then Mayor Ireland, you can speak to the notifications that the municipality sent out.
Merci pour ta question, Camille. Je n'ai pas vraiment exactement l'information exacte pour répondre à ta question, mais je sais que les notifications ont été faites. Au niveau de la ville, ça a été fait porte à porte aux besoins. Au niveau de l'arrière-pays, il y avait un système en place pour du système d'enregistrement de Parc Canada. On sait les visiteurs sont où en arrière-pays en général. Donc, il y avait un système qui a été mis en place pour trouver les visiteurs d'arrière-pays puis procéder à l'évacuation au besoin. Donc, je n'ai pas les détails exactement là, de la notification, de comment ça s'est fait, mais c'est le mieux que je peux faire pour ma réponse.
Pierre, I can jump in just before we go to Mayor Ireland and just add for Parks Canada. I'll say this in French and in English. So visitors and residents began to be notified first through an evacuation alert and then evacuation order on Monday evening. But prior to that, since Friday, when some of the wildfires began to start in Jasper, we were already communicating at that time and providing regular fire information updates. So those updates have continued daily and have been repeated throughout the day to ensure people are aware. And we've also been coordinating with regional partners and tourism agencies to ensure that both visitors and community members were getting the information that they needed. And with that, I'll pass things over to Mayor Ireland for further information.
Thank you for that, and thank you for the question. I cannot speak specifically to notification to all of the Parks Canada guests at campgrounds and elsewhere. The municipality uses the Alberta Emergency Alert System. We would hope that many visitors would be linked to that, but it has a feature where you can configure the zone for the response that you want. And so we cannot control whether everybody in our area was actually linked into notifications for that particular zone. There would have been a couple of opportunities, at least for awareness. There was evacuation alert issued earlier in the evening. I cannot recall the specific time, but sometime Monday evening, after ground crews had an opportunity to take a look at the fire and make some assessments. By about 8:30, I think that is the municipality, issued the state of local emergency was broadcast, and then the evacuation order was issued at approximately 10 p.m., 9:59, I believe. And again, that went out primarily by way of the Alberta Emergency Alert System.
Okay, so you cannot confirm if all people who had a phone received an intrusive alert on their phones.
I cannot confirm what individual visitors in the park or residents may have received. I can say that for residents, apart from that electronic communication, we have something that we maintain called the Vulnerable Persons Registry, which allows our residents who may not have access to digital phones and other technology to register with us, and they got personalized notification either by landline or other means, so that we had some assurance that our most vulnerable people notice. But I will say, without knowing how people may have received notice, there is tremendous credit to go to all of our visitors and all of our residents who obviously did get notice, because everybody was able to evacuate safely. I appreciate there was congestion getting out of town and out of the campgrounds, probably with only one exit route from the entire community and approximately 20,000 visitors and just under 5,000 residents. The fact that everybody got the notice to vacate and got out safely suggests to me that the notification system was effective.
Thank you very much, Mayor Ireland. Next question, we will go to Eve Côté, Radio-Canada, Alberta. Eve, c'est à toi.
Can you hear me well?
Eve, yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Thank you for taking my question. If you could please answer both in both languages, that would be really appreciated. So my question is for Mr. Martel. I understand that you can't give a lot of details, but you mentioned earlier that the fire is still burning at the moment. Can you say more about that? Like, is it burning trees? Is it burning buildings? And how many firefighters are on site at the moment?
Thanks for your question. So the structural firefighters are still in town. There's many of them. I don't know how many. Last night they were still coming in. They were still coming in this morning from, I think, municipalities across Alberta and parts of British Columbia. Columbia is my understanding. So I don't know how many are in there fighting the structural fires that are still going in town. I don't have that information. In terms of the wildfire, there was rain that started last night, but we're now dealing with multiple wildfires in Jasper. But the significant one, the south one that moved into town last night, is tens of thousands of hectares probably at this point. I'm not totally sure exactly of the size. So we will be at this fighting that fire even with the rain last night for weeks before it's under control or even more to be extinguished. So it will require lots of resources. Our partners have been amazing through all of this, Alberta Wildfires and others, and we will continue to need them. We have received offers of help from across the country, and we'll be bringing in more resources to do what we can to deal with the situation as soon as possible. Pour répéter en français, souvenir de ce que j'ai dit encore une fois. Euh,
La situation des feux de forêt et où est-ce que ça s'en vient?
Oui, OK. Ouais, les pompiers de structure, donc les pompiers municipaux, je ne suis pas certain c'est combien qu'il y en a présentement dans la ville. Il y en a eu reçu beaucoup d'aide qui est venue pendant la nuit dernière, encore ce matin, je suis certain, de municipalités au travers de l'Alberta puis une partie de la Colombie-Britannique. Donc, je ne suis pas certain du nombre exactement qui sont dans la ville puis qui continuent à combattre les feux de structure qui sont propagés au travers de la ville la nuit dernière. Pour ce qui est du feu de forêt en tant que tel, c'est le feu, on a des multiples feux à Jasper, le feu du côté sud qui est la cause principale du problème la nuit dernière, et maintenant des dizaines de milliers d'hectares probablement. Il a reçu la pluie la nuit dernière, et les conditions vont redevenir probablement plus chaudes et secs la semaine prochaine selon la météo. Donc, on va être plusieurs semaines minimum à gérer ce feu-là avant d'être dans une position de pouvoir le considérer sous contrôle ou même encore plus loin avant de pouvoir le considérer éteint. Ça va prendre beaucoup de ressources. On a reçu de l'aide incroyable jusqu'à maintenant de nos partenaires, incluant Alberta Wildfire. On est vraiment, on ne pourrait pas être plus de remerciements là, pour tous nos partenaires. On reçoit des offres d'aide au travers du pays. Donc, on va apporter encore plus d'aide pour continuer à travailler sur la situation puis l'amener sous contrôle le plus rapidement possible.
Merci beaucoup, Pierre. We'll be able to take 2 more questions. I understand there are more than that, but that's all we have time for today. So next we will go to Abigail Popple with the Rocky Mountain goat. Abigail, you can unmute yourself and pose your question.
Hi, thank you for taking my question. So we've touched on this a little bit, but I see that there are a number of images circulating on social media, in particular, the operations map that people are interpreting as an estimate of how much damage has been caused within town. I'm wondering if I can get a comment from Parks Canada about how you feel about the circulation of these images and perhaps whether you are taking steps to temper these images from being leaked from people on the ground. Thank you.
Pierre, would you like me to comment or would you like to comment on? I can comment on this one. Okay. So Abigail, of course, we understand that there, in the day and age that we live in with social media, there's a very free flow of information from various sources. Of course, our expectation is always that those who are managing and part of incident response are focusing on that, and that is what I believe is happening. Obviously, there are images circulating. There isn't. What we are doing to try to manage that is to provide as many updates with good confirmed information as possible. So we do recommend that people follow the Jasper National Park Facebook page, Parks Canada website, and follow the news coverage as well for the information that the media is sharing that they're receiving from official sources. And with technology, of course, there are many digital platforms, satellite, things that are all free source and available to the public. However, we do just caution people to take those with a grain of salt. We are doing our best to get information out of the incident, but as you can understand right now, we are still dealing with a very volatile situation and have to focus on that. We are working on getting confirmed information. We will put information out as soon as possible. I believe the last update was just posted within the last hour on the Jasper National Park website. So we do, and social media. So we continue to update. Unfortunately, there really isn't a lot that we can do with what folks are seeing on social media. We are doing our best to share accurate information, but of course there will be information that flows, and that is just a reality, which is why we continue to encourage people to go to official sources to get information that they can trust. Thank you very much. And our final question, and I hope I'm getting this right, I believe it is from Isa Nariman. Or Nariman Isa, I'm unclear, but please go ahead and unmute yourself and identify your media outlet and ask your question.
Hello, thank you. Yeah, it's Nariman Isa with CTV Edmonton. Yeah, my question is in regards to, I was at the presser with the Premier earlier today, and she was mentioning that they can't go in and do any of that firefighting or anything like that without Parks Canada permission first. And so my question would be, you know, is there talks about the province possibly getting a little bit more control when it comes to something like firefighting mitigation or battling fires. Where does that line kind of draw? They said that they had a lot of equipment that they could have brought in, but they couldn't utilize it until they got the go-ahead from like the federal government. So I just looking to get reaction from what was said, and if there is a possibility of maybe the province getting a little bit more control when it comes to something like that.
Thanks for your question. We've had amazing support from Alberta Wildfire. They've offered all kinds of resources, and we've been working very closely with them. They've been tremendous support over the last few days that we've dealt with this situation. They'll continue to be critical in supporting us over the next weeks, if not months, with these situations. So extremely grateful for all their support. They've been integrated into our operations. Their personnel has been critical in helping support the response. I'm just really grateful for all their support, and we'll continue to work very closely together moving forward.
Thank you very much, Pierre. So with that, that will conclude the press conference for today. I understand that there are many other questions, and we will continue to our best to get you factual and accurate information. We do not yet have a set time for our next press briefing. We are working on it, but we want to make sure that when we come to you next, we have more information to share with you. That is critical for us. We don't want to just be coming here and not being able to share new updates. So that's what we will be prioritizing, and we will inform all of you when the next press availability will take place. So we thank you for sharing this information with your audiences. We know it's very important, and we very much appreciate that you're here with us. Donc, je vous remercie d'être venu aujourd'hui. Nous apprécions vraiment votre présence et votre aide à partager ces informations avec les Canadiens et les membres de la communauté de Jasper. Ceci conclut la téléconférence pour aujourd'hui. La prochaine mise à jour n'est pas confirmée encore. Avant qu'on fasse une prochaine point de presse, nous aimerions avoir plus d'informations à partager avec vous. Donc, nous allons prioriser, trouver ces informations et les confirmer avant la prochaine point de presse. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.